Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So today I have Bud with me and we're going to talk about, well, first I'm going to just go very quickly over the Atropa Ecosystem Treasury. So Treasury Bill's been pumping, Fed's been pumping, FDIC, but there's a whole string of tokens there. So I want to show you the arbitrage opportunities that they present and what I think all of this adds up to. And then Bud and I will be talking about the ESM, the emergency shutdown module that happened with MakerDAO, and how he thinks it's one of the most bullish things for Atropa. So obviously there's been, I think everybody's really getting burnt out by the PDI stuff, but obviously in a way that could tie in with Atropa, anything like that is bullish. So I've got all the links in the description for this. And before we get started, I think, first of all, Bud, how are you? And you mentioned in the green room as well that you wanted to give some gratitudes. I think it's nice to start with that.
Yeah, I'm doing well this morning, Stephen. Thank you. I know this has been rather exhausting, and we're all trying to learn and figure this out. And over the past 3-4 days on Twitter, there's been people like DeFi Pulse Pro, Anna Maria, Grandpa Pulse, that have engaged. And if I'm not calling your name out, I apologize, but I really appreciate the content that you're adding, the questions. You're trying to add value. Like, there's none of us that have the answer, but collectively it's nice to have a group of people that are working towards the same end. That's what DeFi is about, man. There's no God, there's no oracles. We're a community and we're all equal. And I really appreciate the back and forth, and there's been some things I've said, and then people have challenged me in a respectful way and made me dig in and kind of push, show what I have found. And I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get to the truth as fast as everyone else. So, if you're adding to the conversation, anybody and everybody's welcome to it. But, the hate and the nonsense, that'll get you a mute. You're not helping.
Yes, very good. Thank you, Bud. Yeah, there was a really good spaces today. I've only listened to and contributed to a small amount of it. The unpacking the ESM situation. So Katrina joined that one, and she was on there earlier. So that's with KR, the ones that they've been doing those 24-hour streams, Panos, and it was actually quite nice. I've sort of avoided those spaces for a while, but it was really nice. I didn't agree with a lot of what they said about Maria and Atropa. Everything is just massively negative against Atropa, and it's kind of blown me away, to be perfectly honest. So,
yeah, can I say something about that?
Yeah, please.
There's people calling him a tranny and all of this. He's still a human. He's a person. Just because you don't understand what he's doing, I have yet to see him do anything that is malicious. And he has taken a lot of slings and arrows here from people. And, I'm not somebody who likes a bully. Those of you trashing on him, you should look at yourself and think about the way that you're just treating another person.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the negative sentiment towards him is from, for example, there's guys in there that are like, oh, I wish I learned how to mint. I would rug the chain, no problem, no questions asked. And 90% of you in here would do that. And I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to destroy Pulse Chain? That's not something that I would want to do. Maybe that's something that you would want to do. That's your character. That's your nature. But they can't seem to really grasp the concept that there's people that exist that want to just help the world. And so there's that cognitive dissonance in their mind that they can't connect that this person is actually a good person. So they're just reading everything that he does as a negative thing. And I sometimes feel like innocently naive or something, because I'm just like la-di-da positive. But yeah, yes, the stuff, man, even if he's doing this stuff as a bad person, which I really don't believe he is, like you said, people don't deserve to be treated the way that he's been treated. That's actually one of my biggest fears at the moment, that he'll just kind of go, you know what, F all these people on Pulse Chain. I'm going to take my baby and go somewhere else. I think there's more to it than what people are seeing. So,
well, those of you who are trashing him, man, that says more about your evil heart than it does Maria.
Yeah. So I would agree with that. And I suppose while we're on this, I might even just bring this tweet up, because I think it's good to just keep this idea in our mind. So this was from so actually maybe I'll go to the original tweet. So from Dirty Crypto. So he's saying, a warning for future PDI investors on Pulse Chain. After analyzing everything that's happened in the last few weeks, I have concluded that Atropa Maria can never be trusted. So this here is the first issue. Analyzing a 3-week snippet of somebody's 10 years of work and making an assessment on it is a very, very, very big mistake. It's like judging a doctor who gave you anesthetic and the jab hurt your arm, and you're only going to judge the doctor on, forget about all the things that he's done for me, but this pain when he stuck the needle in, I hate the doctor. It's just a very it need to look beyond that, in my opinion. So yeah, Richard Hart called PDI cancer. Atropa refers to blah blah blah, all this stuff. I mean, people are even using this as a way of assessing Atropa. All of Maria's contracts aren't verified, which is problematic. I can't say why none of them aren't verified, or some of them are, some of them are renounced. I don't know why. I mean, maybe he just makes so many and he doesn't have time for it. I really don't know. So if PDI or Atropa ecosystem grows enough in valuations, it's possible for him to swipe all the liquidity with a few clicks. Yeah, I mean, it was already possible for him to do this, really, but he didn't. So then bridge out and say he's going to another chain while live streaming again. I can't see that as a necessarily negative thing. If the blockchain is under attack, it's like the perfect action to remove your liquidity from the blockchain to keep a little egg just in case that you can grow again. So any good thing that came out of this was the fact that Maker ESM was triggered. It was weird how Caddy and Maria thought the correct path was negative 99.99% PDI in one candle. I heard that what Caddy said and initially felt she was benevolent. However, it's important to note that 500K was their reward. It's also plausible that they could have paid up, and like, this is the thing, man. Like, yes, 500K, they kept 500K, but they burnt like tens of millions of dollars worth of tokens. So I don't know. For me, anyway, so it's a serious danger if trusted influencers give the green light for Caddy or Maria. So I'll put my hand up and say I'm a serious danger because I'm giving them both a green light. But people should make up their own mind. So if PDI and Atropa ecosystem grows large enough during this bull cycle, there can be serious damage. And always going back to the core coins, which is fine. And then I just wanted to respond to this. So I would encourage you to analyze everything Hamad Daiichi has done beyond the last 3 weeks. I look at it more like investing in a technology that's being experimented with and refined in real time. So a lot of people are popping up and only seeing the negatives of Atropa and claiming them as objective truths when they're just subjective perspectives. So I heard a lot of that in the spaces today, and it's not a criticism on these guys, but they would often say, things like, this is that they've stolen it, or they're obfuscating, or there's no other way that there's no other thing that they could be doing but this. And in my mind, I'm like, well, actually, they could be doing this, and this, and this. But they were like, there's no other way to interpret it except for this. But I didn't agree with that at all. So why isn't anyone jumping to conclusions that someone is just trying to make the world a better place? Because people just treat crypto as a place that they can extract from each other. That's all they see in the actions of others. So make up your own mind, do your own research on all of this, because I also get a lot of things wrong. So in teddy bears we trust. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Bud, before I get into the Fed.
I do, but let's cover the Fed first, and then we can come back to this.
Okay, cool. Let's cover the Fed. So, all right. So obviously, very, very briefly, I want to try and do this in about 5 or 10 minutes. So the examples of Treasury bill tokens, parents, to children. So the whole principle is based on arbitrage. So the fair value, quote unquote, fair value is 1-to-1. Now, the reason why it's 1-to-1 is because one parent burns into one child. Cannot be done the other way around. Only one parent burns into one child. So therefore, if Treasury bill is valued higher, you wouldn't burn the Treasury bill for the Fed because it's worth more than the Fed. So you would just sell Treasury bill for Fed. So if you have a look at this, this is an instance where selling your Treasury bill for Fed gets you a lot of Fed. It gets you a lot of Fed. So going back to this, then if it's the reverse of that, if Treasury bill is lower than the price of Fed, then you would mint Fed and swap it for Treasury bill. So if the value is up here, so there was a few scenarios previously where this was very, very short period of time up here. So this would have been a time where you would have minted. So you would have minted 1-for-1, and then with that Fed, you would have sold that back into Treasury bill, and you would have ended up getting more Treasury bill than you burnt to mint. That's what makes it an arbitrage opportunity. So then you have a string, a line of tokens. So it starts with Treasury bill, burn Treasury bill for Fed, burn Fed for FDIC, burn FDIC for DFM, so on and so forth. It goes in a direct line. So you're not burning Treasury bill for campaign or Taheda. You're only burning the one before for the one after. So the parent is left and the child is right. And then bar, cheat on the bar exam, has 27 children. So the easy way to work all this out is I have this in the description, the Telegram group, so the Atropa chat. So I've got it on Federal Reserve Deposit Insurance Contract, so FDIC. And then what I ended up doing is I ended up going all the way down and figuring all this out and basically creating like I guess like a spreadsheet. So this here is in the link is in the description for this as well. So how you do this, you're basically setting up your front end. There is no front end for this. So this also means opportunity. So the way to set this up is you go to this website, you would simply just add, you would import rather. So you would press the plus. So then how I did all of this, it's very, very quick. So for example, with FDIC, where was FDIC? So here I would go FDIC, I would click the contract address, go here, and then I would also take the same contract address, and I've got this app.ddorb, so you need the ABI. The beauty is you only need one ABI. So I thought that I had to do this for all of them, but it's just all the same ABI. So once you get one ABI, that's all you need. So now, is this loading? I've clicked on it, but it doesn't seem to be. Oh, yes, it is. All right, so that's loading. So now while that loads, I'll just take the name of it as well, just get the token symbol, paste it here. Now I'm getting the ABI. So now this is going to load. Don't worry about any of this information for now. All we need is the ABI. Go to the ABI, copy. So press these two squares, paste, save. So now I've got an FDIC here now. So then I can have a look at the functions. So now FDIC, name, hard, total supply, decimals, balance of, symbol, parent, allowance. So the way that I figured this out, it was pretty simple. I would just go to parent, call parent. It would give me the contract address, and this contract address is for the Fed. So then I wouldn't have known that, but I would have taken this contract address, and then I search for it in this Atropa contract, and it takes me to the Fed. That's how I did it. So it's very simple. Now, after doing like 4 or 5 of these, I figured out, okay, this is in a line. So I went all the way down to the bar. So simply kept going down to the bar. And then I could see that all of these were interconnected to the bar. So all of these were children to the bar. So it's that simple, right? So then what you need to do, so that's just reading. Then you want to actually, you need to approve. So you need to approve minting rights for the wallet. So basically, if the Fed is the parent to FDIC, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the address for FDIC as the child. I'm going to go into the Fed, and then I need to approve this contract. This contract, the spender, and just put the biggest number here. So just make it infinite. So then call approve. All right, so then something else unlimited, so sign that. And then once that transaction goes through, then I can mint. And then I would just end up doing that for all of them. So that's part of my setup process. So before I even do anything, I'll just do that for all of them. So therefore, for DFM, if I want to mint DFM, I've got to approve it with FDIC. So I would go along and do that, approve. Spender, again, 99999. Call approve. Oops. Call approve. Oops, cancelled. Call approve. Why is it cancelling? Or maybe there's too many numbers. So then this is what you should do first. Just set all this up. So set this up. This will only take like 5 minutes. See how quick it took me so quick to do FDIC. Then you just do the same. And you can just use the same ABI. So then I would approve for all of them. Then, okay, what would I do? Now, the next step is, well, finding an arbitrage opportunity. So just getting all the charts set up very simply. I just do it very easy. So all I do is I put a line, and the line is 1-to-1 because I know that's where the mint arbitrage opportunity is. So then with some of them, obviously it depends which way it's paired. But basically, if it's above, I know that this is a minting opportunity. If it's below, it's not a minting opportunity. So then I'll go along and look through here. So for example, FDIC, people have been buying the crap out of FDIC. So yesterday, yesterday it was, gosh, it got up to one. So basically one Fed got you 100,000, almost 100,000 FDIC. So this is where it was yesterday, and now it's dropped a lot. So this ratio here, then if you bought this at let's say you got the very top and it was like 1 to 100,000. So then you got 100,000 FDIC, and then you could have swapped that FDIC back out into the Fed, got your initials back, and kept some FDIC for yourself. This is how the arbitrage works in the swing trade. But the way that I'm going to show you now is more in terms of minting. So then I'll go along and I'll find an opportunity for minting. So I think I had one already set up and ready to go. I think maybe this one. No, not this one. Wow. And look at this. Things is really moving today with all of this. Wow, look at some of these candles. Okay, sweet. So here we go. Here's an opportunity. So this one, whatever that is, this is job. So job and tellers. So then I know that this is mintable. So I've already got those tokens up. So I've got tellers here. So it should equal, let's bring this over here now. It should equal 1. It should equal 1.8, right? Because that's what the chart is saying. So 1.8. So 1 should equal 1.8. Now, obviously, I've got some tokens there, so it doesn't really matter. But then if I wanted to mint those tokens, I would be, yeah, here we go. So 1.8. So therefore, if I wanted to mint job, once your brain gets used to it, if you set it up in a very logical way, it's very simple for your brain to get used to. So then I have, what were we doing? Job. Where was job? So this one was job. So I would be minting. I would be burning tellers to mint job. So I don't actually have much tellers at the moment. I've only got 1.8 million. So okay, let's just do that. Let's do it with I'll just do it with 1 million just for whatever, just so you can see the value of this. So at the moment, I've got actually, I'm just going to quickly do this so you can see the value of this, what this actually means. So I'll see if I can get all of them. Okay, so this is going to give me, let's see how much it gives me all up. So if you just go by token counts, so already just from that swap, if I'm looking at these as supposed to be 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, the amount of tokens I have is probably the most important thing. That's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it, rather than necessarily the dollar value at the moment. So how many will that give me in total? Now this is what sucks, because Rabbi used to be really good for this. Oh, nice. So just over 3 million. So this is the only complicated thing. So now if I want to mint job, So I'm going to mint 3 million. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 million. Hang on. This is the only thing that always does my head in. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 million. But then you always have to add on 18 zeros at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So one of the things that I do is I just keep like a little sheet on the side where I just copy and paste the 18 zeros. So now this will mint 3 million. And this is where Rabby, I'm so bummed about Rabby, because Rabby used to be so good. It would just show me right here, simulation. It would say, I'm going to burn this much, minus this much, and plus this much. It was so easy, so simple. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to just play with the cards we're dealt. So now already, before I only had 1.8 million tellers, and I think it was what, 600,000 job. Now from that arbitrage, I've ended up with 3 million tellers. So I've increased my token count by however much that was, like 30 odd %, something like this. So now I've got 3 million job and only 4,000 tellers left. Now, just so you can see the value of this, because the ratio at the moment is so good, I only have to get back my initials, I only have to spend just over half of the job because of the ratio at the moment. So yeah, let's just do that. So it goes through. Now you can see, well, I've ended up with a further 1.6 million tokens of job. Now, I'm not saying all of these are going to go to $1. I have no idea what these are going to go to. Maria said treasury bill is $1. So if he says treasury bill is $1 and then this burns and mints 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, by market value, they really should be worth $1. But the amount of tokens in circulation kind of makes it a little bit, implausible. But let's just see how things go. And then obviously what you should also do is always check on the block explorer. So this is the Fed. Always check on the block explorer, the holders, like these somewhat basic things where there shouldn't be anybody to blame but yourself. If you bought into something, this is another thing that was on the spaces. If you bought into something and it got quote unquote rugged, well, you bought into a token where Maria owned 99.99% of the supply and you didn't look. So that was your fault. And then I'll also have a look on the liquidity setup. So this is something that's been awesome because this was so thin. This got down to like 1,200. Now it's 128,000. So yeah, that's probably a little bit longer than 5 minutes. It always takes a little bit long, but hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear for everyone. And I guess I just want to give my perspective on, well, I mean, what is the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve balance sheet, so I looked up balance sheet, is a financial statement that summarizes the Fed's assets and liabilities. It's similar to any company's balance sheet, but it reflects the Fed's financial position in relation to its monetary policy and operations. So if this is the Treasury, perhaps this is the balance sheet. So then what's the role of Treasury and Finance? So the Treasury and Finance, whether for a company or a government, is responsible for managing cash flow, investment, and financial risks. It ensures the entity has the funds needed for operations, makes strategic financial decisions, and plans for future financial stability. So when I was getting this ready, Bud, this also managing cash flow. So if anyone hasn't watched the Atropa Movement episode where we talked about CFD, I think that was Atropa 6. I would strongly recommend going to check that out because that really sparked my mind up as well. That this system is managing the cash flow, potentially the engine for the whole Atropa ecosystem. And then fractional reserve banking. So I'm thinking about this from the perspective of fractional reserve banking. So that's one of the big FUD points for the Atropa ecosystem is, oh, well, there's not enough liquidity. It's all fake liquidity. Yes, this is true. But in fractional reserve banking, it's a system where banks only hold a portion of deposited funds as reserves and lend out the rest. This system allows banks to expand the money supply by creating credit in the form of loans. A portion of funds held as reserves is typically determined by a reserve requirement mandated by the central bank. So not in the sense of, or possibly, who knows, anything could manifest like this, but more in the sense of, just as a very basic diagram, there's all this, let's just say this is what the Atropa ecosystem is quote unquote worth. But in actual real liquidity, there's only like a tiny, tiny amount of real liquidity in it. And so of that, basically what makes all of this up is just all that multiplied, and then that makes all it up. But if you take away all that fake value, there's really only this much liquidity in it. So the way that I'm looking at this system is basically all these tokens are, I mean, this is not going to be a very accurate kind of a diagram. It's just something that I thought about, but something like this, where they're all interconnected by this fake liquidity, but it's probably mathematically designed in a way that the flow of liquidity that goes through the system and the amount of liquidity in the system will always keep it net positive. So there can never be a point where it can be the liquidity will be completely extracted from the system that will crash the Atropa ecosystem. There might be like a percentage or a number or something. I don't really know. So anyway, what's your thoughts about all of that, Bud? Have you been doing any experimenting with the Treasury?
Yeah, yes, I have. Would you go back to the screen where you have the tree?
The tree? Oh, yes.
Yeah, that. Okay. So here's how I view this. This is the stabilization mechanism for all of the stable coins that are on Pulse Chain. Okay. So, and it's all ARB opportunity. And so just like as you showed, one got out of balance and you could swap one for the next, right? And you could gain more tokens because the ratios were imbalanced. And all the way down through that chain, you're going to see imbalances. Well, now as a decentralized community, right, whenever there's an imbalance, you'll be able to swap one for the other to increase your holdings, which is going to bring the ratios back. And that's all that matters is ratio, right? And so what Katie and is it Surf? Is that right?
Surfacing, yeah.
Okay. So what they did and what's happened over the past couple of days is they level set all of the ratios in the Atropa ecosystem, right? And now you have, when you're looking at it, you've got PUSDC, PDI, PUSDT, and Treasury are all bonded, right? So like if one gets out of balance because of the Atropa system, one of those four, then the RBots in that liquidity pool are going to work to rebalance that, right? Like let's say Treasury jumped up 15%. Well, because of the interconnectivity of those liquidity webs, then the RBots will come in to try to rebalance those liquidity pools, which will then bring that 15% gain. It'll push that through them other pools, and then it will bring it up, right? So it's not just going to stay in Treasury, it's going to level it. Now, behind Treasury Bill, you have all of this ARB opportunity. So Treasury, with this Fed tree right here, let's just call it that, the Fed tree. Whenever Treasury gets imbalanced, then you have all of this working behind it, right? That's gonna make those ratios right. So this doesn't depend on an oracle. This depends on the community, and everyone needs to learn the process that you just showed, because it's going to be to their benefit to watch all through this tree to see where there's an economic opportunity. Like, I mean, that's the stuff Sonny talked about. Like, there's nothing but opportunity in this chain. And this whole thing right here is opportunity, right? And, you know, Katie and Surfacing, what's happened with Atropa now, the Atropa ecosystem, is it's now level set, because you basically now have 4 stable coins, and then you have this great big, you know, and those stable coins in the Atropa web, those are balancing mechanisms, But then you also, with Treasury, you have a very long chain behind it of other ARB opportunities. So as a community, you're not dependent upon an oracle. You have a financial incentive to make sure that everything stays in rhythm.
That's a really interesting perspective. So you're saying a system like this would negate the need for an oracle?
Yeah, you know, and man, I'm of two minds on this right now. I mean, I see the value in Maker, right? And we can cover that, but all that matters is that the ratios are right. Okay. And this allows everybody, like, I mean, if Treasury goes to $1 and all of these tokens behind it are $1, or it goes, like, let's say that Treasury's $1 and Fed goes to $1.50. Well, then you can swap Fed for Treasury, right? And if it Fed's at 1.5, then what's the next one? What does that say right there? FDIC. Well, then there's going to be an imbalance there. So you're going to be able to continue to swap through that and increase your token counts by paying attention, right? So all of this chain is going to be, what is there? How many of those are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So you got 14 on the main block, and then what is there? 20 something, 27 children. So all of that will have locked in ratios. And if anything gets out of balance, that's going to keep Treasury where it needs to be. Okay. So that's a lot of liquidity flow through the web. So the balancing is perfect. And as Maria talked about, when they were identifying the vulnerabilities in Luna, I believe it was Luna, he said that, that what they identified as the problem was the ability to create new tokens. And so now, with the ESM being activated, and we can talk about this. I just want to explore this for a second. So if with the ESM being activated, let's say that the in cage function was called, right? And Maker's offline. Well, there's no more inflation. Like, we're locked in at a certain number of Treasury, USDT, DC, and PDI. Like, that's all we've got. All right. So now, and I know the big question here is, and Somi calls this like Fugazi, this is bullshit. Trading doesn't matter. Because all that matters, all that people care about is the ratio to the actual US dollar. Well, okay. And how do we achieve that? And look across the board, man. Look at macro. There's like no real good positive news across the NASDAQ, across everything, right? All of cryptos, like, there's nothing running up, but for some reason people think that the PDI ecosystem, it needs to go to $1 tomorrow. Well, how? Like, we haven't had a liquidity injection on the macro side, right? This is like, and I've said this before, this is leverage upon leverage upon leverage, right? So if you're looking at everything Katie and Surfacing did, and you're saying, all they did is screw me, and because all I care about is that PDI gets to $1. Okay, well, show me anything else in crypto or anywhere in macro that's bullish. There's nothing, man. Housing, the housing markets aren't good. Interest rates are still too high. But for some reason, people have this in their brain that, well, if this doesn't go to $1, they're scammers. Well, you're just impatient. Like, calm down, man. We'll get there, but we've got to have more liquidity to come into the space. So something that I've really been struggling with and trying to figure out was, I don't look at this as a player versus player ecosystem. I look at this as a new decentralized financial system.
Yep.
And everybody says, well, but not everybody. A lot of people are like, well, it gets to $1, I'm gonna pull my liquidity, right? Or I'm gonna exit into this. Like, you guys are you're the very first pioneers into this new space, and you're willing to give up your seats, right? And that's fine. If that's what you choose to do, by all means, man, make your own decisions. But when you cheat or when you leave, you'll never get back. And if there was anywhere I would want to store my value, I want to store it where I have control of it, right? This is a allodial title. This was the very first thing you and I talked about, Stephen. There's nobody, there's no entity in the world that will be able to confiscate your stuff. If we get past this April 20th, right, and all of that Judge Amon ruling that came down, and you have Pulse Chain, that they rule now does not fall under the purview of the SEC, right? And that and Richard Hart's other tokens are not registered securities. We have that ruling. You now have a blockchain that exists outside of the control of government. And we don't have these collateralized stable coins that they could call and have the issuer of the stable coin freeze the funds in your account. There's no one to call here. What are you going to do? Call FDIC? You going to call Fed or Treasury? What are you doing, man? Like, you will own your value. This is so innovative, and this changes man's relationship with money, right? This is it. This is what I was talking about with the highest of stakes, man. You know, just be patient and don't cheat yourself out of it.
So is this part of the reason why in DMs you were talking about why you felt the ESM was extremely bullish for the Atropa ecosystem? Is this part of that reason?
Yeah, it's part of it. So I'll take a minute and say that I don't know for sure what's going on with the ESM, right? You know, and it all comes down to like whether there was a 0 or a 1 in the cage function called, right? And I'm not a developer, and I don't know if, like, only time will tell. So I'm willing to be of two minds right now, saying that potentially Maker can come back or potentially Maker's over. I don't know. I just don't know, man. And I'm willing to admit that I don't know, right? But with this, something that DeFi Pulse Pro, I think, and I've been talking about on Twitter, was the ability to create inflation. You're going to need a lot of stable coins, like trillions of stable coins, to build a DeFi ecosystem. And that was the benefit of Maker. Because people could create their own vaults, and by collateralizing their vault, they would mint PDI into the ecosystem. So if I'm to assume that Maker's over, and we now have these 4 stables, and then you have this tree right here, right, that has been created. Well, when we need more liquidity, like, let's say that all of this fills up and everything across this tree is holding $1, or it starts to push past $1. Well, then in the Atropa system, you can create more trading pairs and create ARB opportunities with one of the 27 children, right? And that would allow you to remove value from that one child that would then allow that liquidity to flow. And so you're blowing liquidity up the chain and removing it down the chain in order to keep it in harmony. So if there needs to be another stable created, you could create a stable off of Treasury. You could bring it out, like, I don't know, like let's say it's XUSDC, Katie's project. What if she took and did like Maria did and took a large percent of the value of that stable and bonded it with Fed and then put it in V1 and burn the liquidity? That's how you create new stables, right? And then you just allow for that, for more and more of that, and that goes to that theory on computational fluid dynamics of the movement of gases and flows or money through a system. So I'm kind of like on the edge of my knowledge right here, but that is potentially how you could create more liquidity on chain via like an XUSD, that by bonding the liquidity and burning portions of it.
That's an interesting point of view, actually. I never really thought of it like that, you know, especially when you said that if this is going to be a legitimate decentralized financial system, there is going to need to be eventually hundreds of billions of these kinds of stabilized coins. And so with Maker being switched off, it's a bit of a downer. But then something else could be created, yes. But then also, like you said, these assets being burnt and minted against each other, there's a hot, like from cheat on the bar exam. I'm still scrolling. Oh, I've stopped scrolling. Oh, no, I'm still scrolling. All of these, to the best of my knowledge, are so these token factories. These token factories will have a token that you can burn and then mint another token. So all of these are like stable coins. So I just keep, I'm still scrolling here, by the way. There's literally hundreds in here, hundreds that no one's bought any of, no one's done anything with, but these are all, like all these burn, probably Shen, or maybe not these. I don't know. I'd have to look into it, but yeah, this would probably burn for this parent to child. So yeah, and yeah, you can even make your own. You can even make your own, from my understanding. So like,
so that solves and that was something I was talking with DeFi Pulse Pro about, was the inability to inflate because of the loss of Maker. But this could potentially solve that issue, right? Because when you look at the TradFi, right, like we covered in that Atropa 6 stream, there's $70 trillion US domestic dollars. But then when you look at the euro dollar market, which is US denominated debt or bonds outside of the control, that stuff's pushed by the City of London, right? That's 8 times that value. So in US debt, there's around 600 to 700 trillion dollars in the world. Like, so if we're going to use a DeFi ecosystem and you're looking at these 4 coins and you can't project forward, like those 4 tokens are just, like, I don't know, a couple hundred billion, but that's a really good place to start, right? So you have to be you have to allow it to build. And then, just like I said, if you create new, like like XUSD can come in there, and they can bond to this tree, which creates another ARB opportunity, which would create more liquidity. So now the actual trading coins, like how many currencies across the world are there? Like how many countries are there? 100 is there 180 plus minus something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So we got 4. We got 4 right now. And the 4th just came in, right? So like let's not judge the growth we've seen by the end goal that we want to get to. Man, this is an elephant, and it's one bite at a time.
Yeah. Even interestingly enough, mentioning the elephant, I'm not sure if you've seen that. There's like I wouldn't even know what to Google, but there's people that are blindfolded and they're touching the different parts of an elephant, and one's touching the leg and says, "Oh, it's a tree," and another one's touching the horn and saying, "Oh, it's a spear." Another one's touching the tail and saying, "Oh, it's this," and another one's touching the ear and saying, "Oh, it's this." That's also how I view the different dimensions of the Atropa ecosystem. So, I mean, even this whole thing. I mean, I just went through hundreds of tokens there that no one's talking about, no one knows anything about, no one knows what they do, or I would say the vast majority of people don't know what they do. And this is something that you and I have been looking at for a long time, and we're also still trying to figure this out. So if there's people that are studying this all the time trying to figure this out, then for me that just only equals a certain richness that I find very attractive.
Yeah, I agree, man. And again, that's exploring the path of the fact that the ESM was used. Now, let's assume for a second that the ESM was paused. I don't know how else to call it. And that they're going to fix the Oracle, and then they're either going to redeploy or relaunch or however that works, right? Okay, like that can work too. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. If it did, it would be more, if that path was taken, it would be more beneficial for core coins, the Richard Hart core coins. And the reason, I'll elaborate on this, is this is something I've shared, but I'll go into it a little bit. If Maker is still around, I think you're going to, through the ILKs, you can change the collateral types that you can put into your own personal vault to mint PDAI, right? So let's just assume that somebody was to put an ILK in there that said you could take an HSIT share, right? Like Alex brought that to life through the icosahedron system. So if you have an oracle that can read the value of the T share, and then you place that inside of your own vault, and let's say that it has $1,000 of value, then you would only be able, you'd have to have, let's make this easier. It's got a $1,500 worth of value. So you got to have 150% collateral in your vault, which means that would allow you to mint $1,000 worth of PDAI. Now, if the Oracle can read that the value of the T share goes up, right, then you would be able to continue to mint. And then that would solve for the Hex community the problem of, there's no inflation in Hex. But if the T share, this would do a couple things. It would incentivize people to create these HSIT shares. It would pull down the circulating supply of Hex, which would cause a price increase in Hex. It would ratchet up the cost of a T-share in hex terms, because more and more people would stake, because now you can get liquidity out of a T-share. And as hex goes up, it's going to pull all of the other core coins up as well, right? So I see that, I see for the core tokens, the reemergence of Maker as a positive.
So you think they'll be the major beneficiaries?
Yes. Because now you've created a reason for hex. Like, now the inflation's gone. Like, why would I lock up my hex in a T-share?
Right. Well, I mean, I would still lock it up in a T-share, no?
I mean, it's what I've done, but I did this. I mean, I've been here since the beginning of hex. So, but for new people, because Richard staked out, or the OA, I should say the OA, not Richard, the OA drove down the inflation, right? Because people were running those short-term stakes and extracting. So he killed the inflation.
I think it's just going to be, it's pure speculation, obviously, because we don't even know. I mean, Shio here saying, this is what I mean. So MakerDAO story is not over. So the cage byte 32 ilk fixes the final oracle price for each collateral. Uncaged can be done. So Shio saying that the person who wrote the spell is saying, no, that's it. But yeah, who really knows? But I loved that idea of the HSIs. I loved it. I thought it was such a cool idea, and it would, at the least, I think it would really reduce. I think people would still stake, but it would reduce the sell pressure on Hex at the very least, because it would incentivize people to want to keep staking and then minting. So it was a big kick in the guts, the whole Maker thing. But now, okay, yeah, sure, let's move on. So we know Treasury Bill is Maria's $1 stablecoin, and then there was another thing that's happened in all of this. So Treasury Bill to PDI is now 1-to-1, to the best of my knowledge. So,
yeah, all four are in balance right now. All the stables, including Treasury, are basically 1-to-1.
Wow. So even okay, so it's getting close. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what he's cooking. I don't know what he's planning. I don't know how this. There might be some, like, anyone could design anything. There could be some kind of code that you could just add or create, which switches on Treasury Bill or something like this. I really don't know. So.
But what a fun place to be, man. Like, we can talk about this stuff and both know that, that it's speculation. There's people that talk in absolutes, like Shio saying that it can be brought out of cage, and then other people are talking in absolute saying, it can't. I'm comfortable to say I don't know. And whatever happens, I'm here for it. Like, I just am comfortable to admit, man, some things are past my knowledge, and I love that we're able to talk with both of us being humble enough to just admit we don't know, man. Like, we're just trying. And that's what DeFi is. That's what a community, a decentralized community is, right? You can have a variance of opinion, and we're both just working toward the same end.
Yeah, that's what makes it so fun as well. The part of our speculating also adds richness to what it could potentially be. So just wanted to answer this question as well from Roger. So there's other child tokens directly beneath treasury bills, such as Luke, Ministry, and there's quite a few others. So will they have trees similar to what was built for Fed? I'm not too sure. I think there's always the potential that they could, but yeah, there you go. That's another really good point. So T-bill burning against all those tokens. So I think there was like 6 of them, and then Fed was one of the last ones. So potential stable against stable assets. So
Can you know that picture I sent you, Stephen, of the Atropa liquidity web in the private message?
give me a second. I'll just bring it up. The one that you drew?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second.
It's on my whiteboard right here behind me, but you can't see it for the light.
Okay.
Because as he's talking about all those other, like ministry and all of that, you know, the ARB opportunities and the bonding, it's already there in Atropa. Like you have multiple layers of ARB opportunity in the pairings between Atropa. Like to me, the heart of the system is Atropa, PDI, PUSDC, and now that we've done this, I actually have to change my the heart of it, because now you need to add Treasury Bill and PUSDT, right? But then you have all of these other pairings in the Atropa system that is going to move as those ratios get imbalanced. That liquidity is going to flow through, and those RBOTs are going to find synchronicity, right? So you have the initial layer of the arbitrage opportunity in the web that Maria built in Atropa, and then behind Treasury, you have that tree that we just talked about that's going to allow for ARB opportunity directly under Treasury, right? So you have this thing that is all of this bonding. So this is now, because of what's happened over the past few days, this is all changed. But like, look at right there with PUSDT, Atropa, PDI. So that's 40% of V1 liquidity.
Was this before the big dump from
yeah, but
the
it's
DFM wallet?
it's more than that. So like if you go look at PulseX and you pull up the Atropa DAI or the Atropa USDC pairing and look at the liquidity that's locked in V1, and then look at the liquidity that's locked in just those two. So what's the liquidity of Atropa DAI? 12.5 million?
12.5, yeah, wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And USDC Atropa has 6.3 million, so it's half of that.
Yeah. So that's approximately 18, 19 million. And what's the total liquidity of V1?
Total liquidity of V1. Does it give me total liquidity of V1?
Yeah. It's right there.
Oh, yeah, 53 million.
And we got 19 million in just those two.
Wow.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
So it's slightly less than 40% now, but you know, when we could still use DBank and you could look at the LPs and you could see who was the owner of each LP position. The largest holder of each LP position was the burn address. So that supply, that LP was burned. So 40% of the entire liquidity in V1 is owned by the burn address. So, that is actually positive for ink, because even though the ink distribution's garbage, that ink reward is being, if there is incentive, and I don't even know that there is, but if there was distribution, that distribution of ink would go to the burn address for that LP position, which is pulling down on the inflation of ink. Because who would own the reward if the LP is owned by the burned address? The burn address would receive the reward, correct?
How are they getting the reward for it, though?
Well, the ink inflation was cut a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this goes into the farming, and if it was put into, like, I don't even know that it is getting reward right now. Or
only the things in the farm would be calculated for the rewards.
So if you wanted to make ink, if you wanted to, turn ink deflationary, you would make those two LPs farms.
Yeah. Because, because the person is the one that mints the ink. So the user mints the ink. It doesn't go to the LP. The LP just, the liquidity position just gives it a value that you can take out of it. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it would go. I can see what you're getting at, but I don't think it would apply for this. But I could be completely wrong. Wrong.
Yeah, speculation here. Speculation. Yeah. But it could act as a control mechanism at some point for ink. Potentially. Possibly. Just by changing the farm.
Possibly. But yeah, the fact that such a huge, like it or not, Atropa, the token itself makes up 1/5 of the liquidity.
Right.
In V1.
And then can you pull up, I think I did it through Dex Screener, where you can pull up Atropa and then look at the holders of Atropa on Dex Screener. I'm pretty sure. So the two largest holders of Atropa were those LP positions. Maybe one in the largest holder I know for a fact is the Atropa DAO LP position.
Do you mean you want to see the holders? Sorry,
yes.
Like this?
Yeah. So when you have Atropa token up, then you go down there to the holder. Click on that first one.
33%.
And see that says PulseX LP?
Mm-hmm.
That's who holds it. So that's the PulseX LP of the Atropa DAO. So that's no longer circulating supply, because that's held actually by the burn address.
Yes.
Okay. Now go back up to the top of the holders. So go back one screen. Okay, then so that is 33%, 33.43% of the Atropa, which has gone down. Yesterday I looked at it and it was at like 636 million. And today it's at 534 million, which means more got burned and I believe that was done as they were trying to bring these stables into harmony, right?
Yes, I noticed that too. And then also, that will also mean that the movement of the tokens is going to hang on, no, because more is in LP now, but there's less supply.
Right. So click on the second one, please. The 16.78%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another Pulse XLP, and that's your Atropa USDC. So between 33 and 16% of the existing supply, that stuff's really not existing anymore. The actual supply of Atropa is half of that, because 50% of the circulating supply of Atropa is in burned LP.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Good point. Okay, so you add these two together, that's 50%. Sure.
So there's really only like 265 million Atropa, because the others are inaccessible.
And what's this third one? Yeah, so completely burnt. I don't know if this is, I don't think this one is burnt, but I could be wrong.
Can you go up? So one of them, that's a Pulse XLP, and one of them is the Atropa Down pair.
That's this one.
Okay. And then the other one is a hot wallet in the top 4. As of like yesterday, I looked at it. Right. Now, Atropa Down that's not held in burned LP. That's just held. Like Maria has said, that's how he's, like, when he needs to remove value, the down token is where he's going to extract value in order to relieve pressure, right?
So even on that point as well, that's been a massive FUD point against Maria about bridging out and extracting, and then, well, potentially not bridging back in, but I think that there's always a possibility that he can bridge back in. But I kind of see whatever he's doing with the ecosystem, taking that value, bridging out, it's still part of the ecosystem. It's not like, oh, he's taken that out for himself. Down is his token that he's going to take out for himself. So when he wants to buy, I don't know, a new jacket or boots or something, then he'll probably sell his down. Like that's at least what he's stated. So I just kind of take it on face value, but that's pretty wild. I never really considered the fact that 25% of the 50% of these tokens is burnt. They're completely burnt.
Right. And we, I saw the post you put up yesterday or the day before, that the existing or the supply of Atropa has actually, it is started at like a billion 100, like 1,111,000,000, right? So it's really already been cut in half. But when you look inside of these LPs, it's cut in half again. Like, so, there's a lot of layers to this thing, man. A lot of layers.
Okay. So it's almost like it had this, then the supply got cut in 50%, and now of that cut supply, 50% of that is in burned LP.
Right, approximately, because the burn address doesn't hold all of the LP. It's just the largest position inside the LP, right? And I can't access that anymore because we lost Rabby and D-Bank, right? So, I mean, I could, but I'd really have to get in and dig. But this is a general concept. Okay, so it could be, it's not 50%. Let's say it's the majority holder was Maria inside that LP, which I think the last time I think I looked at it was about 93% of the Atropa DAI he held. He didn't hold it, I'm sorry, the burned LP owned it. And then the USDC Atropa pair, I believe the ratio is really high there too. So, 40 to 50% is held inside when you were able to view the LPs, the actual, like the the holder inside of that LP position. The majority holder was the burn address, right? Just trying to be as clear as I can here. And the information isn't as easily accessible as it used to be because of the loss of DBank.
Yeah, that was a big loss, actually.
So those percentages on the side are not exact because we just don't access that information right now. But it'll come back. It'll come back, and then we can dig in.
I'll just... Puffy, I'm not too sure. I think he bridged that EDI out, I believe. So that was all done on stream. Okay, so, and the burned LPs, at least on V2, are earning LP, essentially burning more Atropa through trading fees. Not
no, it's being, I believe, so, I mean, I'm a holder on V2 LPs, and what's happening, like, man, the volume has been awesome, right? Like, some of the pairs that have, like, because of the price drop, only $50,000 to $60,000 of value, but the 24-hour volume would be like 250,000, right? So, like the volume spikes because of this have just been outstanding in V2 LP.
Yeah.
And so, if you're a holder inside that, then you're getting 0.22% of the volume on that, 0.22% of the volume, and then multiply that by your percent holding, and then you divide that by the actual price, and that'll give you the token count. So the tokens are being redistributed to those of us that are participating in V2 LP, right? So you take somebody like me, man, I'm collecting a lot, right? Like, and I'm very thankful for all the volume. And I, you know, as people cheat and they're weak-handed, I'm there just every single day, man. Give me your tokens, I'll hold it, right? Because go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say that's also something that I feel is very, even with all this treasury stuff, you're basically, if you can, if this is the parent and then this is the child, you're locking, you kind of locking that value away when you're putting it in LP as well, especially when it's, for example, when they get close to 1-to-1. I mean, these are reasonably close enough to 1-to-1, the majority of these. Yeah, so they're close enough to 1-to-1, right? So then if you're putting that in LP then, and as this idea gets more momentum on the chain, it's I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for a while, but now today and recently, like Fed's really kicking off, like everything's really kicking off. FDIC as well, people are asking about. But if you're putting it in LP, you're locking that value away. That's just generating yield of people that are going to be doing this minting and then swapping, minting and swapping, minting and swapping. And especially if you can lock that value away when it's around 1-to-1, it's
no
pretty damn good.
Loss.
Exactly. So, damn you, Treasury Bill. Yeah, so this is Fed and Treasury. I hope that fixes up soon. But yeah, I mean, look at this: 137K liquidity, 380K volume. That's beautiful. I mean, that's an anomaly when you look at this candle, but still.
It's great. That's great. I mean, that volume's awesome, man. You know?
Yeah.
So anything like of the four stables, find an LP, man. There's no impermanent loss. It's going to oscillate. You know, it's going to move out of range. But when it moves out of range, awesome, right? Because the Arbots are going to come in and they're going to trade through that pool, and your volume's going to go up, which means your token counts are going to go up.
Exactly.
Right? As a community, right? There you go. That's how you support. You can't look at anybody like Maria or anyone to solve all the problems. Like, if this is going to work, it's going to take all of us. And this is how you support it. And I just, earlier in this presentation, I explained why you wouldn't want to leave the chain, because you're going to have an asset that nobody could confiscate from you. No bank, no government. It's yours, man. You own it. And you can go anywhere in the world with it.
Yeah, why would you want to give up your seat to that? Like you said earlier as well, why would you want to give up your seat to that? Just
And the biggest. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry, Stephen.
I was just going to say, just the potential alone is exciting enough. I do believe it will succeed, but let's see.
But let's look at where we're headed. Okay, let's talk about how we see the world in 5 years. We're all using, like, whether it's Cash App, Venmo, any of that, right? So we're going digital. The exponential trend is enormous. You're going to have real world products built that you're going to be able to start paying for things with these stable coins. Like in October of this year, they're going to implement the Stablecoin Legislation Act, that Genius Act, through the Senate, right? So payment platforms are going to be these stable coins. And so then you're going to be able, when this ecosystem establishes a decentralized stablecoin, then we'll be able to build real world products. So now if you were to take and generate an NFT, right, that represented ownership of something, then you'll be able to sell your assets. Like if you wanted to sell your house via a smart contract, put your home in an NFT and put it on an NFT marketplace and sell the contract inside the NFT. I mean, that's just one thing. And with it being on a blockchain and inside of a smart contract, then you're going to have the ownership, right? Like this is where we're headed. This isn't going to happen tomorrow. This is 10, 15 years, man, but real world products are going to be built. And it's all going to tie in here. And if you project forward into that space, and you're actually a holder that helps stabilize the liquidity, like my LPs are a 15-year plan, bro. Like, because I get compound interest. And my size in the percentage of every LP I'm in goes up because I get more reward than everyone else.
Are we still here? Did I get rugged or did Bud get rugged?
I can hear you. There you are. Nope.
There you are.
On YouTube.
Yeah, I think I just had a lag spike. What were you saying? Sorry, Bud?
Well, that's what was the last thing you heard?
You were talking about it might take like 10 to 15 years, but this is where it's headed. And things are going to be...
Just allow your mind to process all of the potential of real world applications that can come out of this chain. But we can't get there without a US dollar peg decentralized stablecoin. And that's like the $64,000 question is, how do we achieve that? Well, it might require a large liquidity event, like what Raoul Pal has talked about. My personal belief now that liquidity from like Rat Pulse and the Atropa system, like there's a separation there. So the Atropa ecosystem is not necessarily bonded to the core coins right now. There is bonding, but it's minute. So when we get, like, we are at the tip of the whip for leverage on leverage on leverage. So when we get a liquidity injection into macro, which then goes into the NASDAQ, goes into ETH, we're going to get the highest performance because we're the tip of the whip.
Hmm.
And then once we can find we get the injection we need through macro, and we find that dollar pairing, then you're going to see more. You're going to see, moves like this until we get flat. And when we get flat, then we're dollar stable.
Mm. Yeah. So the journey towards that, no one really knows how it's going to be. So even Aldo, that's not necessarily the bottom line that we're concluding here. So did you actually want to go over this as well, Bud? We started talking about this and then we got sidetracked by the V. Or was that all you wanted to talk about, was the fact that there was the V1 liquidity?
Yeah, we can talk about this. I'm sorry. So this is something that I just put together so I could get my mind around how the liquidity was moving through. And what I found during that time, now liquidity I'll have to rebuild this, but this was pretty accurate. So at the top right, you see Pulse Hex, Pulse X. Scroll up just a little bit, Stephen. And then that was bonded through, and I was gauging this based on 24-hour movement on price and what was being affected. And so I saw the movement between UFO and the Atropa system. So all the Atropa tokens are in the green. So UFO and WBTC, that's actually Pulse Wrap Bitcoin. Those were moving in correlation or had the least amount of movement with Pulse X, Hex, and Pulse.
Sorry, just to clarify, Bud, when you say movement, do you mean like the 24-hour gains and?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Monitoring that on Dex Screener.
Yep.
Now, things have been recalibrated because we've had basically a restructuring of infrastructure of all of the infrastructure here. So I'll have to rebuild this. But at the time, I'd watched this for weeks, and this was as close as I could get. So I was just trying to connect everything and watching movement. So, like you go down, so I saw limited connection to PulseX, Hex, and Pulse. And then when I was seeing movement in Wrap Bitcoin, then I would go into that pools, liquidity.pools.versal.app. And I would track the pairings, and I was looking for the majority of the pairings there. And like with Wrap Bitcoin, it was Scissors. That was one of the largest holdings. And then it was the upside down R, which then, from Scissors, it would flow into Treasury Bill. And then Treasury Bill's largest liquidity pairings was James Cook, and then that statistical usage, total amount of sales.
What the hell is that?
So that's one of those Chinese symbols things that Maria put up there.
That's right.
And so I took and put that symbol into Grok and had it translate it for me, and that's what the symbol meant. But those on Treasury Bill, the James Cook and statistical usage total amount of sales attributed for 70% of the liquidity bonding, right? And then came back off to Mofty. Now, PTGC is probably something entirely different because I know they've been removing liquidity. But off Treasury Bill, TB right there, below that, its connection to Teddy. And then Teddy was connected to PDI. So you got this web of ARB opportunity, right? And that was just by tracking the 24-hour price movement and looking at the largest bonding of the tokens in liquidity pools. And so now it's different. Like at the time I built this, PUSDT was at the bottom there, and then it came down into, I don't even know what the hell that symbol is. And then there was HOTX into EHEX. And then from HOTX, there was a pairing that went back up into the cores, right? And then off Mofty, it came into HOTX. And Maria's stated goal was to create all of the stables at 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, right? But then to bring both of the hexes into equilibrium. So there's a transfer into HOTX, which was then is pumping the price of EHEX, right? So you can start to see it if you take the time to research to see how the liquidity is flowing through the system. And go ahead.
No, you keep going. Sorry.
So for me, I just needed to see, okay, how do when one token goes up, it doesn't just go up and then somebody rips out liquidity. When one token goes up, then these R bots attack it and attack that price spike, which then distributes that into its closest pairing. And then so let's say that Treasury bill spikes. Well, when Treasury bill spikes, that statistical usage total amount of sales token is going to go up too, because it's the R bots are trading that imbalance. And then the R bot between statistical usage and Mofty are trading that. And so is James Cook. So it brings everything up. If one token goes up, they all come up because of the ARB.
Yeah. And the ratios and the amount of tokens in the pools is also, like, I don't know if you saw that the other day with where Maria first, or Hamad first, set up Treasury Bill and DAI, like the new V1s with Treasury Bill DAI, Treasury Bill USDC, and he was pumping it, or he was buying into Treasury Bill, or he was buying into it or selling into it, but it was doing the opposite. The price chart was moving in the opposite direction of what he was doing, because it's almost like him selling there, it would have reverberated through the system, which ended up looping back around in a way that ended up pumping it. So
right,
yeah, the interconnections is important, but then also the amount of the tokens, or the percentage of the tokens in those pools relative to their total supply as well, which is still the a math that I need to figure out. I keep saying that I will, but it's more just like, go on.
To know the math, man, like, when we talked about the computational fluid dynamics, when we did that in the Atropa 6 video, if you go back into our private messages, I had sent you that concept months before that. I had been thinking on that for 3 to 4 months before I even sent it to you privately. And we suppressed it because your question to me was, by releasing this information, do you think it could cause harm? And my reply was, I don't think so, but I don't want to chance it. So let's just table it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think what you're seeing here now, like when we talked about that in Atropa 6, this wasn't some brand new idea that I had just came to the forefront of my mind. I've been thinking on that for a while. And the more I looked at the liquidity webs and the trading and the ARB opportunities and how it all comes up, and you have like CFD is pressure valves that allows liquidity flow and liquidity restriction. And it's the basic concept, right, that's used in rocket science and in aeronautics, basically. But I don't know the math that Maria generates in order to set these ratios, right? Or this background test net that I think potentially he has, where he's able to run simulations to see where if I apply pressure here, what will happen. Like, that was the idea. And I just wanted to disseminate that to the community. And I know this is tough, man. Like, this is really, really hard, and it takes a lot of time. And at times, Stephen, like, I mean, I'm really thankful for our friendship because we're able to talk about this stuff and assume we don't know some things, but we're trying to learn together.
Yeah. I mean, that CFD stuff, it blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And it made a lot of sense. Put it that way. It made a lot of sense. And it made a lot of things click into place for me as well. And I think that's what makes this such a beautiful journey as well, because there's so many things to learn and it makes it so enjoyable.
Right. So I know all anybody cares about is, okay, if Maker's dead, how do we get to $1? The same way that, like, you just got to be patient and wait on a major macro liquidity event.
Yeah, it still begs the question: how does it stay at $1? That's the question in my mind now. Maker was like, okay, well, it's coded, hard coded that when this is that, it equals 1, which, yeah, really, you could make something. You could really make something. You could make something for that, no doubt. But I think a lot of people have become disillusioned since that. I'm even seeing some of the comments here, but I think we're aligned regardless that it's going to take the liquidity that it's going to take. There is no, the overnight peg theory was, yeah, logically possible, but suicide for the chain. So
yeah, I'm with you, man. And again, Maker might still be alive. It might not be. We don't know. But how it stays there is just what you showed with the ARB opportunity. And it's going to be important for all of us to learn that and to get in there and recognize that ARB opportunity behind Treasury. Right?
So do you think if all these tokens were interconnected in liquidity pools with one another, parent to child, but then also fed to society and then campaign to FDIC, for example, if they were all interlocked and that process of arbitrage was like sped up, I suppose. Because at the moment, it's relying on humans to close the gap and realize that there's an arbitrage opportunity here. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if it's 1-to-1, then I'll do this. I'll swap this to this. The ARB bots, they don't know that. They don't know that, well, this is minting for 1-to-1. They just see a discrepancy from one pool to the other, and then they fill the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wonder. Yeah, I just wonder how that kind of that process. I mean, because it's quite slow, right? I mean, if you're looking at this, yeah, it just seems like it would, if it's gonna be something that keeps something at $1, it would need to be like pretty secure as a. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but
that's okay. All that matters is we have token after token after token that are there's going to be opportunity in ratio trading, right? So the opportunity in ratio trading is that's what's going to create all of the stability. Is that opportunity. And it doesn't matter if it's that web or that picture of those tokens I sent you, or if it's that tree. So long as there's ARB opportunities on the ratios, then that's what's going to secure when we get in a liquidity injection via macro. Then once we find that dollar pairing, the oscillations are going to be large to start with. But over time, as the community comes in and the R bots come in, that it's just going to be less and less until over time it just locks, right? So there's no immediate answer. There's, everything in nature is waves, man. There's no straight lines, right?
Exactly.
People want that price to go straight to $1 and then straight across. Doesn't happen.
No. So just what do you have? Do you have a comment on anything to add on this? So how can you peg T-bill, Fed, FDIC? Meanwhile, FDIC supplies in the trillions. So I guess from my perspective, this is where the jump in logic in my brain goes, okay, all right, something doesn't make sense because, yeah, I mean, if they're supposed to be 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 and that's got trillions of supply, it kind of means, well, maybe $1 not the target for Treasury bill. Or it could also mean there might be some kind of incentivized way that will encourage people to burn the supply or lock up the supply or something along these lines, that just like what we've seen on the chain, with PDI, for example, when liquidity gets removed, then it moves up and down very fast. So it could be something like this, and then just burning, some sort of incentive to burn the supply. But do you have any ideas on that, Bud?
I think over the next week, I'll try to dig in real deep to that tree and look at the amount of tokens, to look at ratios, to look at opportunity. And I'll do that and I think everybody should do that, because when there is an established ratio, you show me the imbalanced ratio, then that's an opportunity for me, which means I'll be able to economically benefit from it. So I don't have all the answers. It's going to have, like, I use my whiteboard and I write stuff on it and I draw it out, and I'm trying to get my mind around it because I'm a visual learner, right? So if I see an imbalance or a pairing's off, then I'm like, oh, well, hell, let's see if we can trade that and make some money on it, right? Or increase token counts, however you want to view it. So I don't know the ratios or the balance of it, but when I see a discrepancy in it, I'll trade it.
Yeah, for now it seems like just securing the tokens is probably the most valuable thing at the moment while the chain is down, is just to accumulate those tokens. And when it's really just the cost of gas and you're basically printing free tokens because you're minting them, and then the arbitrage, like we saw with what was it, Job and Tellers, was it, or one of them? Yeah, that was in a few clicks, tripling your token count. So,
and enough people do that, you're not going to have that opportunity, right? Because that ARB opportunity is going to go away.
Exactly. But it's interesting because it seems like, I mean, someone's doing some big moves here today. So this is it kind of, as you go down the line, the fluctuations kind of state, like obviously this is the first part of the line, Treasury and Fed, and you can see the ratio was huge, or the discrepancy between the ratio. Then Fed to FDIC, same thing, huge, and then DFM, FDIC, but then it starts to get more and more stable. So here you can see it's 2 to 1, and then as you get further down the line, it's more like it's getting closer to 1 to 1.
That's probably Sonny in there clicking buttons. What'd he say? He's done like 250,000 clicks or something on chain. He's probably in there just destroying that,
Something like that. Exactly. So yeah, I really would encourage people to do this, because we're hypothesizing what this could be, and if it ends up being what we think it could be, then if this ends up being like the engine room, this is like the core of the whole system. So getting a liquidity position in this would be pretty powerful. I mean, if there's always going to be a slight discrepancy, where there's always going to be some kind of arbitrage opportunity, you would just have a lot of yield, I would imagine, as this becomes more popularized. So
I agree with that. Like, there's nothing in the world that, comes easy or comes free, man. If you want to up your token counts, get in there and do the work.
Yeah, that's it. ROI games, could Maria do so? Now that those contracts are launched, to the best of my knowledge, no. But there's no reason why he couldn't do. There's no reason why he couldn't do something like that with tellers, for example, or just whatever. So you mentioned FDIC, which has trillions of supply. So there's no reason why he couldn't do that with FDIC. Do it like burn 1,000 FDIC for one of this other token, and that would be a way of slowly reducing the supply over time. I just think it's cool that you can look at this and go, oh, this is what could happen, and then just kind of position yourself for it. That's always what I've tried to do with the Atropa ecosystem. It's what I was doing with Dysnomia. Okay, I don't really know what's going on here. I'm just going to dive in and figure it out as I go. And I feel the same with this. So it's really cool that it's really popping off in the last couple of days. So
yeah, and this is one of the things I'm going to look at, but as you go down the chain, does a token count increase? Is there variation in the availability, which there might be increases and decreases, which would allow for the constriction and the opening of liquidity down that chain of that tree?
Okay, let's just out of curiosity, let's just have a quick look. So I'll get so this is the Fed. Oh no, this is FDIC, and then I'll get this one here. Let's go job, because we did that. So I'm just curious to see what that might be. And then I'll get let's go this one here. And just check what the supply is. So FDIC has, all right, yeah, so 224 trillion, 30 trillion for job, 207 trillion for whatever this is. Million, billion, trillion. Was this? Yeah, trillion. So
what's after job? Is it going down in token count as we get down that tree?
It went down for job, but then it went up for this one here. So this one here is 200. This is the same as FDIC. So basically, I've looked at the ones that I have there is I did FDIC, I think this one here, job, and then this one here, the little clock symbol.
Right.
1, 2, 3. So the clock symbol and FDIC is both just above 200 trillion. So
Right. So you're going to have different token counts, which are going to me, my initial thought on it, and I'm not locked into this, but this would create checkpoints and constriction points in the flow down the chain of that parent tree.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And obviously, this supply is going to forever increase. Well, it can it can technically forever increase, actually, because if you're always burning one to mint the next, then there's no cap on that mint. So if you can always
Right. So when you'll have to, like, if I was doing it, I would go through and look at the initial token counts from the day I started observing, and then I would check it again and then see what the movement and the ratios are, and I would continue to write that out. So then when I can start to develop a formula to see where there's imbalances, right? And it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of work to try to figure out the math where I can say, oh, wow, there's a huge discrepancy here. I can jump in and increase my token counts on this particular item. And then when I do that, what's the amount of pressure that I cause? When somebody else comes in, what are they doing? How are those ratios moving? Right? That's how I'm viewing it.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually. I like that. And I also think writing stuff down is very underrated. It can make things very, very clear when you just put pen to paper. You can really start to wrap your head around it.
Well, I like my whiteboard. Man, I use that for everything. Like I'll write down my ideas and my concepts, and then I can, start to lay it out. And then when there's change, I can just adjust, but it's always there. It's always in front of me. It's a moving target, but it allows me to go back at my past thoughts and some of it, just like the drawing we just looked at, that was really accurate, a really accurate representation until we just had this complete refiguring and rebalancing of Atropa because of what's gone on, right? So now that picture doesn't mean nothing, but at the time it did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to go over on this particular stream. We've almost gone up to 2 hours here, bud. So my brain's actually feeling a little headachy, actually. So I might yeah. Feeling a bit
flat.
Lot,
man. It's been a lot. It's been a very exhausting couple days. There's a lot of stuff going on as far as people being frustrated with price. If you're looking at the price chart and that's a measurement of your happiness right now, man, you're living a pretty tough existence.
Yeah, you're living a really hard existence. Yeah.
So just try to pull back from that and look at what's being built. Look for opportunity. At this point, we've been fudded as hard as you can FUD, right? At this point, I don't even know that I would trust. Well, let me be real careful how I say this. For me, any content that comes from the Richard Hart Twitter account about Atropa and the stablecoins is unreliable information. I don't even give it any credit, right? And I know for those of you that view Richard as a god, that's blasphemy as far as you're concerned. But I just don't give it any credit. And, you know, this is a really challenging time right now. And either you believe or you don't. And that's for you to decide. Don't let me persuade you. I'm sharing my thoughts. I'm not benefiting other than I'm trying to help the community come together to build out this ecosystem that I believe in. That's how I benefit. I'm not shilling a token, a coin. I'm not asking for follows. I'm not monetizing you. None of that. I'm just trying to help, give perspective, and I encourage conversation. I really enjoyed our back and forth on Twitter, and we don't have to agree. We should be able to challenge each other, and you know, if I say something that's wrong, I'm not too proud to admit that I was wrong. I'm gonna make mistakes, man. I promise you, I will say something stupid that I'll have to retract, but I'm trying, right? I'm trying to learn as much as everyone else who's engaged here. So be patient with people. Thank you to everybody who gets in the arena and gets dirty with us. You know, it's real easy to sit out there, to sit behind your computer and make negative comments. But if you have an opinion, get out there, man. Challenge us. Be a part of it. Be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, and keep spreading the gratitude and the positivity. I think it's really important, not just from a psychological point of view, but from a metaphysical point of view. And yeah, showing our appreciation for what Maria is doing, because I don't think it's yeah, like we mentioned earlier, everybody's a human.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to send people thank yous, right? Like, I mean, I sent one to Katrina or Caddy, right? Just, you know, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for being a part. Or when somebody makes a comment, I try to thank them. You know, like, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being involved. I appreciate the work you're doing. I don't have any inside information, nor do I want any. I want to be. I'm just here observing and sharing. And to everybody who said, you know, Maria's he's going to strip the ecosystem. He's going to rug pull. Show me a malevolent action that he's done. I mean, when you look at it long term, he has taken so many slings and arrows, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for any human that would have to absorb that level of maliciousness. I've been attacked. I don't, you know, you say whatever you want to me. I don't give a rat's ass, dude. It doesn't matter. Come on with it, right? If you're that vile, you know, the only people that I worry about are the ones that I have a very close relationship with. And if they tell me I'm out of line, then I try to adjust. But for this, if you come at me and attack me, you know, say negative things, that's more of a reflection of you than it is of me.
It really, really is. Yeah, I made the point in the spaces today, and I might have said it with not as much tact as I would have liked. I said a negatively minded person will see the negative in everything, and a positively minded person will see the positive in everything. But because I'd said it after a string of people being negative, they assumed I was talking about them, which I wasn't necessarily talking about them, but it's just, for me, it's a very matter of fact thing. If I learn Korean, then I speak Korean. I can read Korean. If I learn mathematics, then I can read calculations. If my mind is full of negativity, then I'm going to see negativity. If I am someone who has criminal tendencies, I'm going to look at every person as being against me and wanting to lock me up, or, oh, that person's about to steal something. Like, that's just how the mind works. So just seeing the constant wave of FUD and negativity, I'm honestly, but I'm shocked. I'm so shocked by the amount of hate that I'm seeing against Maria in the spaces. I'm so shocked. I'm like, wait, how did this even happen? You know, they're like, oh, he's who comes onto a thing and starts selling on you, and I'm like, isn't that what you want? Like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and now you're watching me do it. Isn't that a good thing? As opposed to just like not knowing. I would have thought it was. I mean, the thing that a lot of them really hated was the treasury bill, that he just minted all this treasury bill. I was just like, yeah. I mean, I've hypothesized about what I think the treasury bill minting was for, but
I think we've covered that in this video. What I mean, as good as you and I could do, I think we really dug in and showed people that. And just, you know, you're saying it perfectly. If you're out there saying people are trash, that's your perception, because that's where your mind's at. And that's why I think, like I tell those people, thank you, because I believe they're trying to build a decentralized financial system, and they're taking slings and arrows. And I just want them to know that there's people out here that don't think that they're they're ill-intended, right? I think that's the right way to say it. And that I appreciate it, because they're human too.
Same. And yeah, there's just, I mean, I am trying to see the perspective of being malevolent, like the bridging out, for example. Somebody asked earlier, I don't know if we answered that question or not. I think it was Puffy asked about the EDI, and that did get bridged out. But again, we don't necessarily know that it's not going to come back in. We don't necessarily, like, if we look at it in this small window of time, then okay, yeah, well, he's sold and left. But that doesn't mean anything in just this short span of time. So I'm just genuinely trying to think of malevolent things, like all the rug tokens, and I don't know. I'm just I'm seeing more positives than negatives, but that's just me.
I'm with you. I mean, this whole space has been rug pulls, right? I mean, you know, those of you in the, like, look at what Matty Allen's done. 2 tokens? Come on, man. Like, but yet people still don't say, I mean, some folks say things, but you don't know what, and to try to be gracious here, maybe his intent was right and it just didn't work out. Okay. So I don't want to jump on the hate Matty Allen bandwagon. I don't want to be on any bandwagon that's full of hate, right? Like, sometimes things happen, like you can have really good intentions and it just doesn't work out the way you hoped, right? And so that's for them to reconcile. I don't want to do that. I'll just continue to focus on the people that I believe are doing good and trying to create good in the world, and I'm going to try to keep supporting them. That's it.
Same, man. Yeah, I agree. And I just want to keep throwing my support behind them. And I want everyone else to throw the support and love behind them as well, because if it's going to work, it's destined to work. And I think both you and I really feel that now's the time. This is it. If it doesn't work now, then I don't know what the next best thing is. So this really is a massively transformational moment in financial history. And when you spoke as well, maybe a few streams ago that we did, where that means it's not going to be easy. That means it's going to be extremely tumultuous, and there's going to be massive like not just in price volatility, in sentiment and in which direction it could go, and is it supposed to be this way or that way. I just think it's still going to get wild. I think it's still going to get wild.
I agree. It's going to be rough. You just got to stick to your convictions, right? Look long term. Don't look at price charts. Look at what's being built. And if we're right, and it's a big if we're right, this is going to be the greatest thing. And when they write history, we'll be a part of it because we were in the arena. We were standing up, right? Like, it's important. It's really that important.
I agree. So we've got some comments of gratitude here. So thank you very much, everyone, for your lovely comments at the end of gratitude towards Maria and even towards us. I mean, yeah, we love doing this. So much gratitude to what Maria has built, and to you, sirs, for sharing a message of positivity. I appreciate you guys. Everyone wants to dance in graves, feel like they are justified to hate something. If you hate it, move the F on. All the louder screaming is from people who are overinvested. That's a really, really good comment, Astifu. I think that's always the loudest, the people who scream the loudest, actually. They're always the ones that feel the most pain because they overinvested with a mindset of greed, that they thought this was going to be easy. I just throw money in. I don't have to do anything. Other people throw money in and then I can take it out. But it's not been this cycle's been not like that at all. So it's been really, really difficult. I mean, there is even the potential that the bull market is over. There is even that potential that, I mean, as the time goes by, you have to really consider that. Oh, okay, well, yeah. I mean, I was always theorizing that it would be a quicker bull run because everyone will be front running each other, but not this quick. So we're still kind of hoping, but yeah, we'll see how everything goes. Okay, bud. Yeah, any last comments before we close up the stream?
No, man. Just to reiterate the point of, let's all just keep talking together. Let's all just keep working through this. There's nobody with the answers. If you are typing out something and it's full of hate, man, just delete that shit. Nobody wants to read that. Like, do yourself a favor and take a walk. Go out, touch grass, calm down. Be all right. Every action that you do, ask yourself, is this making the world a better place? Or am I just being an emotional little bitch here, wanting people to feel my pain?
99.99% of the time, it's the latter.
Yeah. Yeah, well, just, you can censor yourself. Don't be ugly. Don't be ugly. Just ask it if putting this out there is a net good or a net benefit. Like, you don't always have to hit send. Delete that shit. Go on.
Yeah, sometimes as well, actually, even from a psychological point of view, just writing it, get it out of your body and mind, put it on a post, and then just delete it. Yeah, you don't actually have to. You don't actually have to do anything with it. Just delete it. Get it out of your system. Sometimes that's also the best thing to do as well. So, because there is it's like a pent up energy with those thoughts, and you want to express it. And when you write it, it's out, and then just delete it. So,
absolutely. Appreciate these streams. Appreciate all the information. You're doing a great job, Stephen. Keep it up.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, I always appreciate conversations with you as well. So I think we're really growing a lot together in this journey. So, and this applies to everyone as well. The streams are always open. So I leave the link in the description. So I invited Bud up for this one in DMs because I know we had some things that we wanted to talk about. So but it's always open to anyone to just come up and have a chat and ask questions and address concerns. And this is how we can grow together and learn together. Because I really do feel like we need to continue to foster that energy into this new system, because it can't have the same energy of the old system either. And maybe new system and old system is not even the right word. It is a new system and that is an old system, but it doesn't have to be new in the sense of it's going to replace it and overthrow. I feel like it's going to be more like Chernobyl, and then Mother Nature still, even despite Chernobyl and the nuclear waste, Mother Nature still goes in there and just heals everything and starts growing again, and animals are there and plants are everywhere. That's how I feel like this new financial system is. We've got this old system that's clearly reached its limits, and this is not going to replace it. It's just going to come in there and heal everything and bring it back into some kind of natural order.
That's a really great metaphor.
Yeah, that's how I see it. That's how I hope. I used to be it's going to overthrow it, very antagonistic, and I think that's really part of my deep-rooted habits, but it's the wrong way. So, yeah, thank you very much, Bud. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And everybody, I don't know if is it Easter's global, right? It's Good Friday for you today. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Lovely. So everybody have a good Easter. You have a good Easter as well, Bud. And everybody take care of yourselves this weekend. Thank you.